What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your Brewmaster-in-Chief. And tonight, in the BrewLab, we are continuing with another episode of Spoiler Talk for Wilds of Eldraine. Spoilers, and wow, it's been like pretty quick, considering only yesterday we were here, and then if you look, I mean, there's a lot of new stuff to touch upon, so I probably should get right into it and start talking some sweet Wilds of Eldraine spoilers. So yesterday I refreshed the page once more at the end of the video, and nothing had come up. We stopped at Welcome to Sweet Tooth, which I'm super hyped about. But then over the night, one more card came out as part of the August 21st spoilers in the Hearth Elemental, or Hearth. It's a 6-mana 4/5, but it costs X less to cast for X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant cards, sorcery cards, and or have adventures. So actually could probably end up costing you, much less than that. And then, this is actually really not too terrible, especially considering, I mean, if this was an instant, but still, Stoke Genius, the adventure side, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. So, nice, especially when you have no cards to discard, right? This is the last thing in your hand. You're not discarding any, you're drawing 2 for 2 mana. That's pretty cool. And then you'll be able to probably at that point play this for like 1 or 2 mana. And then you're just getting like a nice old chunky booty there, a nice 4/5. Doesn't trade with Sheoldred though. That's kind of like the baseline for just these days, which is ridiculous. But regardless, I mean, a fairly powerful little uncommon. I don't think it'll see much play in Constructed, but in Limited, this is going to be quite the house, in my opinion, just because of that stat line and the fact that you'll probably end up casting it for way less than 6 mana over here. So that's it as far as August 21st. Then they busted out a bunch of these Wilds of Eldraine Jumpstart cards. So I had to actually go and do a little bit of research. So let me just quickly get that up on the screen here for you guys. There was an official announcement a little while back, and we're going to focus in on this bit here where it says that during Wilds of Eldraine design, we created 10 uncommons and 5 rare cards that we intended to use in Jumpstart boosters. While we won't be releasing Jumpstart boosters with Wilds of Eldraine, we decided to include these delightful designs as a one-time transition, even though we didn't end up using them in Jumpstart boosters. Exclusive Jumpstart cards will be legal in Standard, Pioneer, so, this is why I'm actually going to cover these spoilers, because we actually are going to be able to play with them. So basically, they're legal anywhere where Wilds of Eldraine main set will be legal. So, yeah, bunch of interesting stuff here, even though they're Jumpstart cards, but they don't have a special booster. They'll just be playable in Standard, so I don't know why they just didn't, whatever. The point is, we need to talk about them, so let's get right into it. I'm going to make sure that my face is not blocking too much text here. And we're just going to start off with the Storyteller Pixie. And it is a 4-mana 3/3 with flying. Whenever you cast an adventure card, adventure spell, draw a card. Yeah, I think, like, I don't know, slowly but surely this Pixie, or, this fairy deck is going to start forming up. It's looking okay so far, but I'm still missing some, like, really strong creatures that are going to push it over the top. Like, it's got some really good, like, sort of supportive tribal spells, like we saw the counter spell yesterday that cares about, or was it the day before? I can't remember, but the new Thoughtseize at home. All of these, here we go, Spell Stutter, that cares about fairies that you have in play, and there's many cards like this in the set, so it looks like it has everything it needs to be strong, but I don't know about the actual creatures so far. Yes and no, couple of good ones, couple of real trashy ones. Maybe they're still, keeping the best for last, and we'll get some more, OP fairies as spoilers progress, but for now, this one here in particular doesn't stick out to me as, like, particularly broken. Yes, drawing a card is great, but, if you just play this on 4, it's just a 3/3 flyer, and you probably got to wait until the next turn to start drawing cards off of it, and that might just be a little bit too slow. On to the Experimental Confectioner. 3 mana for a 2/3 human peasant. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food token, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature cannot block. Lots of this like stuff for the rat tribe thing that they're going for is sitting on the 3 mana slot. There's already a lot. I don't want to, belabor the point too much further than, Voracious Vermin over here, as well as the little guy that looked like, over here, Lord Skitter's Butcher, that looks like Ratatouille. They're all 3-drops, and I don't know, therefore, which ones are going to make the cut. They need to be pretty damn good, because you're not going to just make like a whole deck of 3-drops. That doesn't work too well. So I just don't know if Experimental Confectioner over here is, better than the other 2 I just showed you, or some of the other ones that I didn't just show you, but that exist in the set, including the stuff from previous sets that fit Rat Tribal, that, from Phyrexia All Will Be One, that King Rat guy that I mentioned yesterday that gives all of your rats Toxic 1 is also a 3-drop, so it's gonna be a very contested slot, and I just don't think Mr. Confectioner over here is gonna make the cut. Next up, we got the Malevolent Witchkite, a rare 5/4. It's a Dragon Warlock, but it's 6 mana. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and/or tokens, then draw that many cards. I've noticed this little sub-theme, like it's a sub-theme of a sub-theme. Whoops, sorry. Whenever I press tab, it goes right up to the top. A sub-theme of a sub-theme, where it doesn't actually say bargain on the card, but it is like effectively like another sort of bargain thing, because again, it cares about the same things: artifacts, enchantments, and/or tokens, and you can sack them, and then stuff happens. So it's kind of like bargain without it being written on the card anywhere, and that's pretty cool, I guess. Like if you set up a turn where you're playing, or maybe you reanimate this guy, and then when it enters the battlefield, you draw like 3-4 cards, and you still get a 5/4 flyer out of the deal. That's really not too shabby, but it's not like any better than any kind of other thing that you could reanimate. And if you're just trying to like hard cast this on, maybe a turn early with a bit of ramp or something, meh. I guess it's not terrible, but it's also just not really that amazing. Like maybe at 5 mana, maybe with 5 toughness, would have been a little better. I do like that it trades with Sheoldred in combat. At least there's that to be said about the Malevolent Witchkite. But up next, we have a 5-drop for the rat tribes. This one's a rat fairy. So we kind of like, sorry, again, whoops. We're kind of like combining tribes here. Old Flitterfang. It's the first time I'm going over these at all. So a real first impression. Old Flitterfang over here is a 5 mana rat fairy that's a 3/4 with flying. And at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, you create a food token. Then you can sacrifice another creature and/or artifact to give it +2/+2 until end of turn. If you, I mean, look, maybe a 1-of, maybe a 2-of, maybe a 2-of in the rat deck. We'll definitely freaking try it, because you're gonna be trying to just continue to apply pressure on the opponent with a bunch of these 1/1s that you're not gonna hold up or hold back for anything, because they can't block. So you just keep attacking with all your rats. And hopefully you have more rats than they have blockers, and you just keep trying to get in for the damage. And maybe, you swing with Old Flitterfang as well. Once the opponent declares blockers and he blocks one of your little rats, that's the one that you pay to, 3, sack that one, and make him bigger. Now you're getting in through the air with, a 5-power creature. And you can do that multiple times, depending on how much money you have left. And then, you not only get the buff out of that, but at the end of each end step, you'll get a food token out of the deal as well. That's honestly not terrible. It just is 5 mana. Yesterday's, my favorite uncommon from yesterday is also 5 mana and would go well in the rat deck. I don't know which of the two. But again, we're going to try everything. But Cool name, cool flavor, cool art, cool little abilities. Maybe a little bit too expensive. At 4 mana, I would probably just slam like 2 of these in my deck, if not 3, quite happily, because that isn't a terrible bunch of text there. Next up, we got Become Brutes. 1 or 2 target creatures each gain haste until end of turn. For each of those creatures, put a... Ooh. That's a nice little uncommon little thing there, my friend. Give some stuff haste. And then you put... And the monster roll token is obviously the best one for mono red. It's +1/+1 and trample. So, you know, for 2 mana, you're giving 2 creatures +1/+1 and trample and haste. That's actually, in terms of like rate, mana for what you're getting is really not a bad package. A total of an additional like 2 extra power across 2 different bodies, plus the trample and haste. That's really not too shabby. Don't forget, oh my goodness, like, I mean, of course, like, I guess, like, maybe you play something, you try and go, like, slightly bigger red than current mono red aggro. I'm just spitballing here, and you have, like, already played your Thundering Raiju on 4, and then on 5 you play down something that's... No, because you won't have the mana to do it. I was thinking on 5, no, because then you still needed 2 mana for this guy. But you know what I'm saying? Then it would need to be that you play something that doesn't have haste, and then you're still able to hold up 2 mana for this guy. And then, I don't know. I mean, I still don't quite see it, but just in terms of like what you're getting for the price, very nice little uncommon. Next up, we've got the Charging Hooligan. 4 mana, 2/3. Whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each attacking creature. If a rat is attacking, it gains trample. Oh! For each attacking... Wait. Ooh! Again, like, the artwork fits perfectly. Just another 4-drop, though. It's this, like... none of this stuff's gonna appear in Limited. Again, from what I just read on the announcement, none of this stuff's gonna be in Limited. So, maybe in Constructed, if this rat tribal thing ends up being decent. This is actually not terrible. You go super wide with your rats, then you swing with your Charging Hooligan and the like 5 rats. Now he gets like +5/+0 and trample because it's rats that are attacking. You know, that's not too shabby, eh, Nige? It's just, again, like, it's gonna be such a weird curve in that deck. I need to have the whole set in front of me and to spend some time in the lab tinkering and adjusting things to see whether it ends up being, like, you know, good and whether this makes the cut. But again, in terms of text box, that's really not too bad. Play this in your rat deck. You could potentially give him +1/+0 times 6, 7, 8, whatever, how many rats you've gone wide. And the trample on top of it could just be like the game-ending play there. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So far, like, fun little... I can see why these are, like, I don't know, they decided to keep them in, even though they're not going to be, you know, making a specific jumpstart Wilds of Eldraine thing, which is a pity, because I think in terms of, like, onboarding new players, it's not a bad way to do so. Yeah. I've never played Jumpstart in paper or on Arena, but it just seems like a fun format and a way to, like, somebody who's new to Magic and just walks into the shop, you say, here, all you need to do is buy 20 of these boosters, shuffle them up, and you and your friend can just play Magic right away with these cool, like, pre-thought up, like, tribal type things or whatever they had going. I thought that was a really good idea. It seems like this, for whatever reason, they just decided not to do so in this set. I thought it would have been a perfect set to do it in, but anyway. Onto the Ogre Chitterlord. 6 mana, 4 and 2 red for a 6/5 menace. When it ETBs or attacks, you create 2 of these blats. Man, they're doing this rat stuff on everything. When you then, if you control 5 or more rats, each rat you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Alright. So, play it. 6 mana is a buttload of mana. But you play this guy, you get in for a big old alpha strike with the rats that don't have summoning sickness. And then if the opponent doesn't remove your Chitta Lord straight away, the very next turn you swing with whatever rats you have left and an additional 6/5 menace. Again, like, just seems just, I don't know, like, same like this one. 6 mana. Ugh. In a deck that's probably trying to go quite aggressive and end games before the Sunfall hits. I don't know whether this is just a total ridiculous thing to even put a rare, like, badge on, but okay. Well, I think I've been saying this more than any of the other cards in the set so far. Like, amazing text box, overpriced. On to the Intrepid Truffle Snout. This is a 2-mana boar. 1 and a green for a 3/1 that whenever it attacks, you make a food token. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that very, very much. We were just talking yesterday about, you know, ways of getting loads of food quickly on the board for all of these food things that are going on. It's looking more and more like a Golgari deck, but even just in mono green. And then the instant, you know, go hog wild for 2 mana, you can give a target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. So again, there's cool tension between the adventure and the creature side. Do I play it on 2 and, you know, hopefully start swinging the next turn with a 3/1? That's actually really not too bad for the rate. And then start making some food tokens. Maybe the opponent doesn't have chump blockers yet, or it's the type of deck that doesn't really put down chump blockers. Then you want to get aggressive. It's reminding me of Intrepid Adversary, which is also a 3/1 with upside. In the Intrepid Adversary's case, it you know, has lifelink, and in the late game, you know, fills your curve and pumps your squad. In this guy's case, makes you foods, and foods are good. Foods are really good, because 3 life is a lot of life to gain, you know. The games, like, I got a little taste of it again playing the Lord of the Rings set on draft, and I hadn't played with food since previous Thrones. You know, enough food on the board, no matter what you're really going for, you can just survive against anything, because, you know, unless it's meal or alternate weird win cons where you're like toxic or something, but, or, you know, poison kills. But in terms of, like, just having a lot of life, which is, you know, the main way people kill you is just bringing your life to 0, then having a bunch of food lying around can protract games a lot longer, and I think that's going to generate a much more mid-rangey format, and I'm all for it, honestly. I've been not really enjoying this, like, revival of control-based decks and more aggro that's needed to, you know, come up to deal with that. I thoroughly enjoyed the very mid-rangey format that we had, like, between Dominaria United and March of the Machine, and then it got, I don't know, whatever happened, it ended up being a little bit more control-based after that, with Sunfall and whatnot. I'm sure you've all noticed it. Anyway, next up, we've got the Provisions Merchant. 4 mana, 2 and 2 green for a 3/3 Beast Peasant. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever Provision Merchant attacks, if you may sacrifice a food. If you do, attacking creatures, woo! All your creatures gain +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. Holy cannolis. That is a cool-ass card, man. I love the art. I love everything about it. Just the 4-drop slot in green has some pretty crazy stuff going on. And this, you know, I still think Ulvenwald Oddity 4/4 Trample Haste is probably where you want to be at still, even though they've keep pumping out loads of different 4-drops for green that seem pretty good. There's the oil guy, Spinoderm, I want to say, and so on and so forth. Like, there's a good few, like, 4-drops in green that they keep pumping out over the last few sets. It is a really weird slot in mono green. I don't know if this is, like, worth, you know, playing over the Ulvenwald Oddity, for example. But if you're going for, like, mono green food, yada yada, suddenly, like, the fact that you can sack a food, of which you should, if you built your deck correctly, have many, and then you give all of your guys +1/+1 and trample in a big old alpha swing. And of course that includes the provisions merchant himself. So on turn 5 he is probably going to swing for 4 with trample alongside everything else you have on the board. I would not discount this guy. I would say let's keep our eyes on provision merchant, because it might actually be really damn good. If it didn't say trample, +1/+1 and trample, all creatures, I like. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Next up, Wildwood Mentor. 3 mana creature tree folk. 3 mana for a 1/1, but whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, haha, any token, that's food, of which there's, of course, much in the set, all of the roll tokens, plus everything else we've got going on in standard already, treasures, blood, creature tokens. This says any token. Whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/X, where X is... Woo! I love the flavor on that. It's a mentor, there's the little guy there, we're attacking together. The bigger I get, the bigger you get when we attack. Not bad, if only you had branches. That is a really sweet little card. I worry about playing a 3-drop that can get killed by cut down. So maybe you want to play this on like a turn in which you can also then follow it up with a thing that makes 2 food or something. Then suddenly it's going to be a 3/3. Whenever. It doesn't say 1 or more, and it doesn't say triggers once a turn. So yes. I don't know if I would just play this guy on 3. Again, it depends on the board state, the colors the opponent's playing. If you're playing against black, probably best to not play a 3-drop that can get killed by cut down. And then your turn is over, and you know, maybe based on the opponent's you know, cards, colors, and what you can tell from the deck he's playing off of the first few turns, make the call. Maybe it's better to hold this guy back till like turn 5 when you can play it and the truffle snout. Yeah, no. Sure, it only makes 1 food. Oh no, it's whenever it attacks, so not the truffle snout, but you know what I mean. There's plenty of 2-drops. Or even just follow it up with a sweet tooth here, or anything else that just makes like 1 or 2, either a food and a thing or whatever, and then it ends up being a little bit chunkier and can at least survive a cut down until the next turn, at which point you can start attacking with it, and then this attack trigger is actually not too shabby. Alright, we're almost at the end of the jumpstart cards. We're moving on quickly to Rowdy Research. A 7 mana instant, but it costs 1 less to cast for each creature that attacked this turn. So maybe, you know, the turn following Fairy Slumber Party, you've got like 6 of these little 1/1 fairy guys. You attack, and then this ends up costing you 1 mana, and you draw 3. So it's very situational, very, very, very situational. I guess you could also, but I mean, you can tell from the picture on the freaking card, right? Like, it's supposed to be played in this fairy deck where you've gone wide with little fairies, and then you get to draw 3 on the cheap. Kind of Convoke-y vibes to it. You know, just not quite, but you know what I'm saying. The more creatures you have that are attacking, no. Draw 3 is not bad. If you can play this for 1 or 2 mana, and you're drawing 3 cards at instant speed, you know, that's great. But how many times will you have, I guess, okay, let's just say the typical red for like a draw 3 spell. You know, I'm thinking one of these search for insight, or they're like 3 mana cards, but then it's usually like draw 3, discard 1 unless you discard it, or discard 2 unless you discard a land, or there's the one that discards an artifact. Is that draw 3 or draw 2? I think it's draw 3, discard 1, always. And you're paying 3 mana to get 2 cards in hand. A thing that actually draws you 3 cards, I'm thinking the only thing right now that we have access to is something like Silver Scrutiny, and you'd need to spend 5 mana to do that. So for this to cost 5, you just need to attack with 1 creature. So then it's like actually really not too shabby. Even if you're just attacking with 3 creatures, This brings it down to 4 mana to draw 3 clean. That's, you know, really not too shabby. So I can see why it's an uncommon. If this fairies deck can go wide enough, fast enough to set up a turn where this ends up costing you like 2 mana to draw 3 cards, gets the thumbs up. If not, meh. Next up, the Lady of Laughter. 5 mana. These jumpstart cards have been pretty pricey, mate. But 5 mana for a 4/5 flyer with Celebration. And in this case, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield, which is the Celebration text, you draw a card. 5 mana for a 4/5 flyer that just sits there, and then maybe the next turn draws you a card if it doesn't just die to removal. Seems like a bit of a crappy card to me, but only time will tell. I think this is probably the worst one of the lot. Maybe it's still the Chitterlord here for 6 mana. You know, so that's the 3 rares we've seen, and sorry, the 3 out of the 4 total in this little jumpstart thing. Lady of Laughter, I think, is probably, if not the worst, the second worst. At least the Chitterlord has an immediate, you know, effect. It gives all those rats +2/+0 until end of turn. This just does nothing the turn it enters the battlefield, and then maybe you'll draw a card next turn. Next up, we got Food Coma. I love the artwork. Busy as a bumble sheep. Fairy expression meaning asleep. Sounds like some, you know, Cockney. Up the apples and stairs. And all of those, you know, rhymey Cockney slang. And busy. Nice. Food Coma. So 4 mana for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until Food Coma. So it's basically just a more expensive Banishing Light, whatever. We've got like 3 or 4 different effects like this. There's actually the only other 4 mana one that we have right now in standard is the Power Stones one from Brothers War that costs 4 mana, gains you 2 life, and makes a Power Stone. I believe it is. Can't remember its name, but it's, yes, it's 2 life, exiles a thing, and makes Power Stone. This is a little worse, I think, because it just makes a food. For the extra 1 mana that you're paying compared to the usual rate for this type of card, all you're getting is a food. So, yes, I mean, that Power Stone one is very narrow for the, you know, I need to be playing artifacts to use the Power Stones with and stuff, but at least it's more for the rate. Power Stone and the life. This is just a food, then maybe next turn you can do something with the food, and then maybe the opponent just has enchantment removal, of which I think people are going to be needing to run lots of in the coming format, because not only is enchantments already a really strong deck, the rest of the set is full of new enchantments and sagas and enchantments with artifacts and enchantment tokens. So I think enchantment hate is going to be premium. So I don't know, I just don't see it. But that's enough rambling about Food Coma. Cute little artwork, probably quite terrible. Pets of Honor is the next card. It's a 3 mana 2/2 mouse with Celebration, and when the celebration happens, you put a +1/+1 counter on the Pests of Honor. Meh. Meh. Boo. Lame. I mentioned this yesterday. I think Celebration is going to end up being the worst thing of the set. This is all Commander stuff, so who cares? Definitely not me. Enchanted Tales. Who cares? Onto the rest of the meat and potatoes. And, you know, a couple of reprints that we can zoom over quickly. Ginger Brood, I'm so happy you're back, just because flavor-wise and, you know, whatever, it's just great. Couple of rares, couple of interesting things. I have seen a few of these on Twitter, but most of the stuff I'm going in blind on. So let's just jump right ahead and get into it. I'll put myself over here for a second. First up, we got Ariette's Tempting Apple. So, you know, we've seen Ariette. She's holding the apple. You know, Snow White reference. It's, of course, a food. It's 4 mana for a legendary artifact food. When it enters the battlefield, you gain control of a target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste. That's really strange to have on, you know, usually right now we have plenty of these effects in Standard. They always cost 3 mana, and the most recent one is Furnace Rains, I believe, where it enters the battlefield, or, you know, it casts a spell, gain control of target creature, untap it, gains haste till end of turn. This time we're having like an artifact that does that, which has absolutely nothing to do with Ariete. You know, if you go look at Ariete, it's enchanted creatures the opponent controls cannot attack planeswalkers and creatures, or, you know, can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. Like, this is an artifact. Got nothing to. It doesn't like make sense for the synergies with the card that it's the namesake of. But other than that, it seems pretty interesting to me to have this, you know, maybe in this like sack deck, instead of like having to go load up on your 3-drops and have Furnace Rains, and, you know, they're all 3-drops that effect right now. It ends up being too many. In the same slot to have that effect. So now you can go maybe put like 2 of the different ones that are in the 3-drop slot and have 8 3-drops, and then put, you know, 4 of these in your 4-drop slot, and that meant 12 of these effects in Standard in your one deck, and then, you know, you have your sack outlets. Might be finally viable, who knows? But the rest of the card is also pretty cool. You know, pay 2, tap it, gain 3 life. So it's basically a food that's like can be used both way. Either you can use it as a food to gain yourself some life, or you can drain the opponent for 3. You gain 3, or the opponent loses 3, and that's also pretty nice. I think. I mean, it's okay. It's a decent card. I just don't understand why like it has nothing to do with Ariete, considering it's more of an enchantment based thing. But whatevs. I still think it's a nice design. Next up, Succumb to the Cold. For 3 mana at instant speed, tap 1 or 2 target creatures an opponent controls, put a stun counter on each of them. There we go. I knew we were going to get more of this kind of stuff, right? I've been talking about Hilda, the icy crowned lady, for a while now. You know, we looked at Freeze in Place yesterday, which was sorcery speed, which I thought that this was my like common of the day for yesterday. The fact that you put 3 stun counters and the scry too, I thought was really good for the rate. Here we have a thing that costs an additional mana, so I think you're paying, you know, you're paying a little extra, and for that you're getting the instant speed, and you're able to put stun counters on 2 different things. So probably going to end up playing both of them in this Hilda deck if you want to tap down the opponent's stuff and then get value from the Hilda. So probably not too shabby. If that deck takes off, I think this will end up being a 4 of in there. Yeah, it's about all I can say, really. Nice card. Next up, we have the... let me move my face here. We have the Snare Master Sprite. 1 mana, 1/1. When it ETBs, you may pay 2 colorless. When you do, tap target creature and opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Very nice. Very nice. I likey. You know, play it on 1, fine, just whatever. Maybe you're playing fairy things and you want, you know, fairies, lots of fairies, go wide with fairies, you play it on 1. And then if you top deck it in the late game, it's not just terrible because, you know, you top deck a 1/1 flyer for 1 in the late game. Woo! But if you top deck a 1/1 flyer in the late game for 1, that also you can pay 2 and tap an opponent's creature and put a stun counter on it, much better. So I like that. I like that, actually. Cool little common. Let's see if this will end up going in the Hilda deck or in the fairy deck. It is a fairy wizard. Who knows? Cool little effect, though. For 2, though, it'd be nice if it was pay 1. If it was pay 1, this would probably be uncommon and would be seeing a lot of play. As it is, let's see. Next up, we got the Barrow Naughty. 2 mana, 1/3 flyer. It's a fairy, again. Has lifelink, and as long as you control another fairy, and then you can pay 3 to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. It is not a tap ability, so you can do it as many times as you have the mana for. So, you know, could pump it for 6 mana, gain. That's, you know, again, looking very similar. Maybe in limited, right? Like, go this one to that one. Now this one's going to have lifelink. Then on turn 3, you swing with both of them, and then you pump it once, and you get... I can see it, but if this costed, like, just 2, or maybe just only 1 black to do the +1/+0, then it would be uncommon, and it would see a lot of play. Because of the cost of this, and the rate, and the stats, probably won't see any play at all. Next up, we got the Collector's Vault. 2 mana for an artifact, where you can pay 2, draw a card, then discard a card. Create a treasure. Woo! Why, hello there. Why, hello there, my friend. Holy crap, that's pretty freaking nice. Holy crap, that's pretty freaking nice. Considering you may want to play it alongside, and I'm going to keep going back to this and referring to it because... I mean, I know we've got Soul Guide Lantern and so much other incidental graveyard hate in this set, but I'm still super high on, where is it? Lich Knight's Conquest over here. The card we were just looking at. Okay, so let me just quickly reread this for those of you who forgot. And sacrificing a number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens, return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Any number. So if you can play this, 2-drop that is itself an artifact that helps you discard your reanimation targets into the yard and also makes more artifacts while it's doing so. This is going to help you actually end up casting the Knights, Lich Knights thing a turn earlier off of the treasures and give... Wow, I think that's really good, actually. I think this might sneakily be like, holy crap. The fact that you can play it on 2, that it makes treasures and helps you, you know, discard the reanimation targets, and then you can use it to bargain with, you can use it to sack to the Lich Knights thing. I like a lot. Probably like a 2-of alongside the other enchantment that I keep referring to that does discard 1, draw 2, and then you can pay 1 and give things haste. That's name is never ever going to remain in my head ever through the rest of spoiler season, but you know what I'm talking about. It's from Brothers War. Next up. Anyway, very high on Collector's Vault. Super excited to try this out. I think this is sneakily like a little bit of a sleeper and maybe completely freaking busted in the right deck. Next up, Unruly Catapult. 3 mana for a 0/4. Artifact creature construct with Defender. You can tap it to give 1 damage to each opponent, and then whenever you cast... Okay, so we've actually got something like this in Standard right now. Oh my goodness, why can I not remember the name of him? I guess it's because I don't really play that type of burns deck a lot. But we've got a guy that does this in Standard, and then there's another guy where you don't have to tap, where it just happens when you cast things. People that were playing the burn deck badly before the mono red burn deck that's currently in Standard with Mechanized Warfare ended up fusing a little bit with mono red aggro. There were people that were trying to play it just more, you know, pure burn styles, and they were playing those cards that now I don't remember the name of, but you know what I'm talking about. So this is just another one of those to put in that deck. However, it's 1 extra mana. All of the ones I just mentioned are 2-drops. This is a 3-drop, but it's got more toughness. And it's an artifact, if that matters. I don't know. I don't know if that deck will ever be, you know, it's not like suddenly you put this in and it's like becomes tier 1 or anything like that. So probably just a bit of draft chaff. Next up, we've got the Red Tooth Vanguard. Whoop, sorry. Why does it go down and not up? Red Tooth Vanguard. Let me scroll down a little bit more. There we go. Trample. For 2-drop. 3/1 with Trample. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, return it from the graveyard to your hand. So I guess the 1 toughness isn't a problem, because you just keep on swinging with it. It's got the Trample. It's pretty aggressively statted for an aggro deck, maybe in Gruul or something. Gruul modified with the new roll tokens. because the roll tokens are going to be modifying your creatures, and you know, you keep putting more of them on your creatures, and then when you do, the other ones go into the graveyard, then you just pay 2, bring back the red tooth, keep putting it down, attack. I don't know, it seems okay. I just think we've got better options right now in Standard than this. Not the least of which the Iconoclast that I mentioned yesterday with Kicker that has haste and trample for 3 mana. Let's see. You know, it's an elf. I've been hoping for elves to do something, considering we got, you know, remember it was back in, I think, Dominaria United, where we've got that cycle of lords. There was the soldier one that sees a lot of play, the goblin one, which sees 0 play. There's an elf one, there's a merfolk one, and one more that I cannot remember. Regardless, you know, the thinking has always been, since they released that cycle, that then the sets that would come following it would slowly fill up those tribes so that they would slowly, one by one, become strong. So definitely Soldiers had its time in the sun. That's why it's the most played one. All the Soldier stuff came out in the first couple of sets right after those Lords. Then, you know, we kept getting some orcs. I mean, some goblins. And, you know, we know that Ixalan should have lots of merfolk. So maybe this is, I don't know, there's still not enough elves. I don't think suddenly this guy's going to make it, woo, elf tribal good in Standard, but maybe there's more still coming in this set. Next up, we got the Aquatic Alchemist. I love the art on this. It's a 2 mana 1/3 with a bubble up for 3 mana, sorcery speed. Put a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to the top of your library. And then whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So again, this tension between the source, you know, between the adventure and the creature. When do I play what first and then next? Kind of incentivizes you to play multiple copies so that you can play the one out on 2 and hold up the other one in your hand so that you can do the sorcery on 3. And then that counts as casting a sorcery. So then you can trigger the one you played the turn before. Now it's attacking for 3 damage. Probably in draft this will actually end up being pretty good if there's like some sort of like blue-red spells deck or something like that. But in Standard, next up we got the reprint Ginger Brute. I always liked this card. It can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. So you know, it was really like what you would do was like put a bunch of stuff on your Ginger Brute, so that it like couldn't. It was much bigger than the 1/1. You know, auras and whatnot, and then have ways to protect it. It ends up playing out quite similar to a Virtuoso, with you know, security bypass aura on it, so that it, you know, it can never be blocked. You just can, unless the opponent plays creatures with haste, of course, but there's not too much of that going on outside of mono red. So then you just put a bunch of auras and things on your Ginger Brute, and then every turn you just pay 1, can't block it, pay 1, can't block it, and eventually if the opponent does target it and finds a way to get rid of it, then you can still just sack it and gain 3 life. So was always a bit of a fan of Ginger Brute, and I'm happy he's back. And the new artwork is freaking epic, so nice. Then we got a reprint of Disdainful Stroke. I think it was necessary. We were getting close to it. You know, I think they do it in such a way that, like, even though the rotation has moved forward a year now, like, we would have lost the Disdainful Stroke that we currently have. Now we've got 2 with the same, you know, without rotation happening. It's just going to be 2 different Disdainful Strokes. You can pick your artwork. Personally, I like this one a lot. I prefer this one to the one that we have right now. So I'll just probably be using this if I ever... I do play like a one-of Disdainful Stroke in my Azorius Mill deck right now in Standard, actually. Alongside some negates and whatnot. It's quite nice against Sheoldred and plenty of things that are mana value 4 greater that we need to deal with. But we all know this card. It's been around for ages. And it's getting a reprint once again. Next up, we got Candy Trail for 1 mana for a food clue. Oh, that's nice. Oh, Oh, that's nice, man. So when it ETBs, you scry 2 on turn 1. That's sick, right? And then on 2, if you want, you can tap it, sack it, gain 3 life, and draw a card. I think that's freaking nice little common, dude. I'm going to be trying to play this in my little Artifacts Matters deck. For sure. And it's got food in the, you know, in the type. So there's other things that care about how many food. We were just talking earlier about Welcome to Sweet Tooth, that saga. If we can find a way to put more food on the battlefield before you actually get to turn 4 and you're swinging with your Bloated Contaminator. I was talking about it in yesterday's spoilers. Like, you can play this on 1, the Sweet Tooth guy on 2, you know, the saga, and then you play your Bloated Contaminator on 3, and then on 4 you can do stuff. And then, you know, you can set up that line with all the nice little scrying and things. I think that's a really nice little card. By the way, close to probably being common of the day. What else did we see? I mean, actually nothing, because this was all uncommons and rares, this jumpstart stuff. So yeah, I think, yeah, this is so far getting my... it was Snare Master Sprite. Now, you know, Gingerbread's a reprint, so I'm not going to be obvious. I think for sure my common of the day so far is Candy Trail. Really nice. Next up, we got Scream Puff. 5 mana for 4/5 Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a food. That's like the same stat line as Shieldred. For 1 extra mana, yes, but, you know, no one wants to block a Death Toucher, because you're going to need a very, very big blocker to actually get rid of it because of the 5 toughness. We've already seen how hard it is to do that against Shieldred. So most of the time he will be getting in for damage, and every time that you do, you'll get a food token out of the deal. That's honestly not a terrible little common either for 5 mana. That's really not too shabby. I think this is going to be an all-star in draft. Take my word for it. I can't wait to go back and like check on some of these things that I've been saying throughout spoiler season, whether they end up being correct or not once we get to play with the new cards for a couple of weeks. But personally, maybe even for Constructed, if there's like a Golgari food something deck, the fact that it's got Death Touch and 5 toughness and makes food every time you get in for damage, I think this actually makes that this should have probably been uncommon. Am I wrong? Am I reading this incorrectly? 5 mana is a lot, but it's only 1 more than Shieldred for Shieldred stats. 4/5 Death Touch with a little upside. I think that's really quite a good little card. Ooh, a lot of good commons today. Next up, Candy Grapple. Aha! An instant speed thing that has bargain. I've been looking out for these. There's not too many of them. I've mentioned it earlier in yesterday's video in passing with regards to the fact that you can sacrifice sagas, you know, to the bargain mechanic before a certain trigger goes on the stack or not. Or, you know, maybe you wait for the trigger to go on the stack and then you sack it before the thing actually disappears. And then, you know, you get to do the bargaining because it is an enchantment. And maybe you stop the saga in its tracks at the point at which you wanted it to stop at. You know, and there's already a few examples of that from spoilers we've already seen, and I think we're going to continue to see more of that. So just keep that in mind. Like, you know, sagas are enchantments. Bargain means you can sack them. If we have instant speed stuff, we can prevent certain triggers from happening on the saga. I think that's pretty interesting. You know, the rest of the card, okay, -3/-3, and if it was bargain, -5/-5. So finally, an instant for 2 that can get rid of Shieldred. And that, you know, potentially if you play it in the right deck that cares about bargaining and all these stuffs, could be actually a pretty nice little removal spell, honestly. This seems to be the 2 mana black removal spell of the set so far. I haven't seen anything else. You know, your Go for the Throats, your Infernal Grasps. There's one in every set. Most of the time, like some sort of 2 mana destroy creature type thing in black. This appears to be this set's take on that. And -5/-5 Being able to get rid of Shieldred is pretty important, so I think, yeah, it's not too bad, actually. Next up, we've got the Iron Crag. This seems pretty, I don't know, crazy, right? It's been... I was just talking about this yesterday with regards to... where's the Mana Rock we got yesterday? Or was it the day before? Eh? I'm sure we got it. It was like... It was a reprint also. Here we go, Prophetic Prism. You know, 2 mana rock, but then you have to pay 1 and me. And there's... this time, we got a 2 mana. Okay, it only adds colorless. You don't have to do anything about it. And then it's got this weird rest of the text. Like, this one I actually saw on Twitter. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have the Iron Crag become a legendary equipment named Everflame, Hero's Legacy. And if you do, it gains Equip 3, and equipped creature gets +3/+3 and loses all other abilities. I don't understand this card. I really don't get the flavor or anything. I guess it's just rare because it's a 2 mana rock that taps for colorless. And then it's got this weird upside. Ooh, you just make your creature worse and you need to pay 3 to equip. I don't understand the application or why one would want to do that or anything. So, meh. Probably I wouldn't craft any of these until somebody else smarter than me figures out what the hell the point of that text is. Next up, we've got the Witch Stalker Frenzy. Ooh, I've been seeing this. People are talking about this. Well, again, I just wish... I don't know why they're doing so much of this in the set. It's target creature. Doesn't say creature or planeswalker. So this will probably end up costing you 1 mana in the right deck. You're attacking with a bunch of creatures. It reduces the casting cost for each creature that attack this turn. And then you can do 5 damage, which is great for, you know, Shieldred, once again. But only creature kind of sucks. If it was creature or planeswalker, I would be much more hyped on this. Second. Next up, we've got Dream Spoilers. Another 4 mana fairy. That's a 2/2 flyer. Whenever it casts a spell, meh. -1/-1, meh. Bop, bop. Draft chaff nonsense card. Definitely a poopy card. Next up. Ooh, another rare. Rankle's Prank. Oh, Rankle. Of course. The louder they scream, the harder he laughs. So it was, Rankle was always like, even the most current, it was the team up that we have, one of those team up cards from Brothers War, I mean from March of the Machine. It was a Rankle and Torbran. This one's 4 mana for a sorcery, and you can choose 1 or more, so you can do all of them. Each player discards 2 cards, each player loses 4 life, each player sacrifices 2 creatures. You know, I like that. It is obviously a strong card. It's just always very hard to build a deck in a proper way to do this in the proper way. So, like, where you get the most out of it, the opponent gets the least out of it. You know, maybe you have nothing to discard, they do. You don't care about losing life because you've gained a bunch, or you're just on more life than they are, so then maybe the 4 life is just actually, you know, a thing that you can pay for to just make the opponent lose 4 is great. And then sack 2 creatures. You're playing this in a control deck. You have no creatures. The opponent has to sack theirs. You don't sack another. So I like and then I like that you don't have to choose all of them. You can choose 1 or more. It's like kind of like Farewell. Very strong card. I think this will see a lot of play. I just don't know which deck I would put it into right away, immediately, but amazing effect. Next up and last but not least, Witch's Vanity. So seems like there's a cycle of these, like 2 mana sagas in uncommon, 1 for each color. This is the black one, and I like it. I've seen this one on Twitter as well. The first chapter is just basically like a kind of like a Bloodchief's Thirst, if you think about it. Destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less. Like, that's sick. And then the second chapter, make a food. And in the third chapter, you make a wicked roll and attach it to a creature you control. That's nice little value for a 2-drop. I think that's going to be seeing some play. I cannot wait to jam it in my, like, Black X bargain foodie thing. Yeah, I mean, you get 2 permanents that matter in this set, plus it is 1 itself, and you destroy a creature when it enters the battlefield. These little sagas are being very, very nice so far. Super well designed, well balanced cards. I like them. So yeah, and they're uncommon, so you'll probably just get a full playset of them on day 1 if you crack some packs. But guys, that is going to be it for today's episode of Spoiler Talk. We're getting close to the end of spoiler season. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I have received my invitations for early access. Cannot wait for that. And as soon as the whole set is spoiled, I'm going to start theory crafting. If you're already a BrewLab member on the Discord community, please help me. Let's start bouncing some ideas back and forth. I've got some already, but I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments, in the Discord community, wherever. Let's get theory crafting so that I am ready for early access. But again, that's going to be it for tonight's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next episode of Spoiler Talk. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.